The wind tore through the dense forest, sharp and cold, carrying flakes of snow like tiny knives. Deep inside the woods, Kalen's wooden cabin stood solitary, smoke curling lazily from its chimney, the only sign of life in a world swallowed by winter. Inside, the fire crackled, casting dancing shadows across walls lined with old books and tools. Kalen sipped his steaming coffee, the warmth chasing away the chill of the long day, as he read quietly, lost in the scratchy pages of an ancient novel. Then, knock. A sharp, hesitant sound at the door. Kalen froze, heart skipping. Outside, the snow thickened, the forest silent, empty. No one knew he lived here. No one ever came this far. Knock. Knock. The second time was weaker, almost pleading. Kalen's brow furrowed. He set the coffee down, hand tightening on the flashlight. Slowly, deliberately, he approached the door. Each step creaked on the wooden floor, echoing in the tense silence. He opened it just a crack, the cold gust stealing his breath. There, shivering and soaked, stood a girl. Not human, not even close. Her skin glowed faintly lavender in the dim porch light. Ragged strips of fabric barely covered her thin frame. Long black hair clung to her face, frozen in icy tangles. Her bare feet were red, streaked with snow and blood. Her eyes, two wide, luminous orbs, met his, filled with exhaustion, fear, and a strange, alien intelligence. Then she collapsed. Kalen didn't think. He dropped to his knees, scooping her fragile body into his arms. The snow fell thick around them, but inside the cabin warmth awaited. He laid her by the fire, wrapping her trembling form in blankets, checking her pulse, weak but alive. "Hey, it's okay," he murmured. Her lips moved, whispering in a tongue he didn't understand, soft, broken sounds, almost musical. Kalen poured warm water, brought a bowl of soup, and knelt beside her. Slowly, hesitantly, her hands reached for the food. She ate like someone who hadn't tasted anything in days. Every bite, every sip seemed to carry away a fraction of the terror that clung to her. Hours passed. Outside, the storm raged on, relentless. Inside, Kalen watched her, this alien child, fragile yet somehow resilient. He realized she had no one, no home, no protector, just the endless void of the snow and whatever horrors had driven her here. Morning light crept in through frosted windows. She stirred, blinking against the gray dawn. Her small hands clutched the blanket like a lifeline. She didn't speak, only whispered something Kalen couldn't understand. He tried introducing himself. Pointing at his chest, he said, "Kalen." She repeated haltingly, "K-Lun." Her lips barely formed the sound. He smiled gently. "Close enough." He drew a stick figure of her on a notepad, labeled it "Question." She stared, then whispered a word, "Ve-ra." Her eyes shined faintly as she nodded. "Vera, you're safe here." But even as he said it, Kalen felt unease's prick at the edges of his mind. Something had hunted her. Something would come, and whatever it was, it wouldn't knock politely. For now, though, she slept. Her small chest rose and fell with the steady rhythm of life, and Kalen, staring into the firelight reflecting off her face, swore silently. No one would ever harm her again if he could stop it. Morning light filtered through frosted windows, pale and cold. Vera stirred, small body trembling as if haunted by invisible shadows. Her hands clutched the blanket tightly, her eyes wide, scanning the cabin as though it were full of dangers. Kalen watched silently, waiting, not wanting to frighten her further. "Vera," he whispered gently, placing a cup of warm tea beside her. She hesitated, fingers brushing the rim before finally wrapping her hands around it. The warmth seeped into her, but her eyes still flickered with unease. Kalen noticed her wrists, thin, bruised, faint scars crisscrossing the pale purple skin. Old marks, faded but unmistakable. His chest tightened. Whoever had done this had treated her like property, not a person. He retrieved his notepad and pencil. Slowly, he drew a simple sketch. A small figure in chains, a larger figure holding a key. He pointed to the free figure, then to her. "Safe. Free," he said softly. Vera stared, tracing the lines with her finger, eyes wide and shimmering. Then, barely audible, she whispered a word Kalen hadn't heard before. "Quran." He wrote it down. "Quran, is that who you were called?"
Her face flinched slightly. She didn't deny it, but the hesitation said more than words ever could. Kaylin's jaw tightened. Someone had stolen her freedom, taken her, branded her, erased her identity. He reached into an old wooden box, pulling out scraps of metal, tiny tools. He showed her a small broken ring. Not real chains, he explained softly, handing it to her. Vera hesitated, then bent it, snapping it in half. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a small victory against a past filled with pain. For hours, Kaylin drew, she watched, mimicking simple sketches. Trees, suns, cabins, her eyes tracking his hands, curiosity flickering through the fear. Slowly, trust built. She no longer flinched at every shadow, no longer froze at every gust of wind. But that evening, as snow thickened outside, a strange hum cut through the cabin. Deep, mechanical, unnatural. Kaylin froze mid-chop of firewood. A red glow streaked across the sky. His instinct screamed danger. "Vera," he said sharply, voice low. "Basement, now." Without hesitation, she followed him. No tears, no panic, only silent understanding. The trapdoor closed, hiding her in darkness as the knocks began. Hard, demanding, filled with the authority of hunters who didn't negotiate. Kaylin's heart pounded. Outside, a cold, metallic voice demanded, "Return the unit. Do not resist." He pressed a button under the table. Old defense mechanisms whirred to life. Steam hissed, lights blinked. The door held. The voice snarled in frustration. Kaylin whispered, "She's not an object. She's a person." A tense silence stretched, broken only by the distant retreat of the unknown forces. When Kaylin opened the trap door, Vera peeked out, trembling slightly, but alive. He sat beside her, wrapping a hand around hers. "You're safe. For now." But deep down, Kaylin knew they would return. And next time it would not be a knock. Vera leaned against him, small and fragile, yet braver than the storm outside, and Kaylin swore silently he would face whatever came as long as it kept her safe.
Night had fallen, thick and silent, the snow muffling all sound except the occasional creak of the cabin. Kaylin sat by the fire, sharpening a small tool, every sense alert. Vera sat nearby, her small hands clutching the broken metal ring from earlier. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now glimmered with a cautious determination. Suddenly, a low vibration ran through the cabin floor. Kaylin froze. "The back," he muttered, barely audible. Vera's gaze snapped to the windows, a flash of fear, but also recognition. She knew them. The ones who had taken her, branded her, erased her name. "Kaylin," he whispered, kneeling beside her, "you don't have to face them alone." She hesitated, then shook her head. I will not hide any more," she said softly, voice trembling but resolute. Kaylin's heart pounded. She had been through so much, yet here she was, ready to confront a past that had tried to destroy her. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then we face it together." The first knock came, hard, metallic, echoing through the night. Then another, faster, demanding. Kaylin moved swiftly, securing the reinforced doors, checking the old traps he'd set years ago. Vera's hands went to the wooden star by her pillow, the small, cracked star Kaylin had shown her, a symbol of repair, of survival. She held it tightly, drawing strength from it. Outside, the alien voices called again, sharp and commanding. "Return the asset. Resistance is unacceptable." Kaylin gritted his teeth. "She's not your asset. She's a person, and I will not give her to you." The knocks intensified. Snow swirled violently, wind howling through the forest. But inside the cabin, a calm determination settled over Kaylin and Vera. For the first time, she stepped forward, her glowing eyes meeting the darkness beyond the windows. "I am not your property," she declared, voice steady, defiant. "I choose my life. You do not control me." Kaylin exhaled, relief mixing with pride. The aliens outside paused, their machinery humming, assessing. The standoff was tense, seconds stretching into eternity. And then slowly, the leader of the intruders lowered its weapon. Their voices retreated. "If she speaks for herself, the law allows self-declaration," it said, a warning hidden in formality. Vera's chest heaved, but her shoulders straightened. She had reclaimed her voice, her choice, her freedom. Kaylin moved beside her, silent but proud. Snow continued to fall, the storm raging outside. But in that moment, inside the cabin, courage had lit a new fire. That night, as the storm subsided, Kaylin and Vera sat by the fire, closer than ever. The cabin felt warmer, fuller, alive. They were no longer hid in corners or flinched at shadows. She had taken her first steps from fear to courage, from being hunted to being whole. And Kayla knew, whatever came next, they would face it together.
The morning after the standoff, the forest lay quiet, blanketed in untouched snow. The storm had passed, but an uneasy tension lingered in the air. Vera sat near the fire, her hands wrapped around a warm mug, staring into the flames. Kaylin watched her from across the room, noticing how her fingers still trembled slightly despite the calm. "You're thinking about them again," Kaylin said softly, breaking the silence. Vera flinched, then nodded. Her eyes glimmered with a memory she didn't want to share. They called me nothing. Erased my name, my family, everything I was. Kaylin winged closer. "Not anymore," he said firmly. "You're here, you're safe, and no one can take that from you." She looked at him, a shadow of a smile on her lips, but the pain in her eyes ran deep. "It's not just what they did. It's what I became to survive." Kaylin understood. He had seen enough in his years alone to know survival often came at a cost. He picked up his notepad and drew a small scene, a figure trapped in chains, then another figure breaking them. "You've already broken free. Every day you're stronger. Every day you heal." Vera's hand trembled as she reached for the notepad. For the first time, she traced the broken chains with her finger, letting herself believe the words. I can be more than their shadow," she murmured. Just as a fragile sense of peace returned, a new sound cut through the morning. A humming, low and mechanical, coming from beyond the trees. Kaylin froze. Vera's eyes widened. The aliens had returned. This time, they were not subtle. Kaylin grabbed a flashlight and peered out the window. 3 tall figures, armored and imposing, moved silently through the snow, scanning the cabin. He turned to Vera. "Basement. Now." She followed him without hesitation. The familiarity of the trapdoor gave her a sense of control. "I won't hide this time," she whispered. "You won't need to." Kaylin gripped his shoulder gently. "We face them together. You're not alone anymore." As they descended into the cold basement, Vera clutched the wooden star Kaylin had given her, a symbol of repair, of hope, of survival. Her fear was still there, but it had a backbone now. Courage forged from days of small victories, trust, and quiet resilience. Outside, the alien intruders stopped, sensing resistance. Their leader raised a weapon, but Kaylin's defiance was unwavering. Vera stepped forward from the shadows, her voice clear and unwavering. "I am not yours. I am not a product. I am free." A tense silence fell. The aliens hesitated, unsure of what to do with the declaration they hadn't anticipated. Kaylin and Vera exchanged a glance, wordless, but filled with unspoken understanding. They were a team now, bound by trust, courage, and shared defiance. The intruders finally retreated, leaving the forest silent once more. Vera sank to the floor, exhaustion finally catching up to her. Kaylin knelt beside her, offering a warm blanket. "You're stronger than you know," he whispered. Vera wrapped herself in it, closing her eyes. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel safe and to believe she could stay. The storm outside had passed, but the echoes of her past still whispered. And yet, in the warmth of the cabin, with Kaylin by her side, she realized she no longer had to face them alone.
The snow had settled into a heavy silence outside, broken only by the occasional cracking of frozen branches underfoot. Kaylin had fortified the cabin as best as he could, but every gust of wind sent his mind racing. Vera sat near the fire, her hands wrapped around the warm mug, eyes focused on the flames. She was calmer now, but the hum of the intruders still echoed in her mind. "They'll come back," she whispered, her voice low, almost a warning. Kaylin nodded. "I know, but we're ready, and this time you won't be hiding." Vera's eyes flicked to him, a mixture of fear and determination. "I want to fight, not just run." Kaylin's lips curved in a faint smile. "Then we fight smart." Hours passed. The cabin was quiet, save for the crackling fire and the soft scratching of Vera's fingers on the wooden star Kaylin had given her. Suddenly, a shadow flickered outside. Kaylin froze, then crouched by the window. 3 figures, taller than any human, moved swiftly, their weapons scanning, lights cutting through the snowstorm like knives. "Get ready," Kaylin whispered.
He activated the old defense system he had rigged years ago. The lights blinked red, alarms were silent but effective, and the perimeter was secured. Vera's heart pounded. Do I stay here? No, Kaylin said. This is your moment too. She swallowed hard, then nodded. They waited. The intruders approached, their steps precise, almost mechanical. One raised a device scanning the cabin. Kaylin's hands hovered near his blaster, tense. Then Vera stepped forward from behind the furniture, her small frame bold against the towering figures. I am not yours, she said, voice steady. The cold wind whipped around her, lifting her tangled hair like a banner. One of the aliens hesitated. Another leveled its weapon. Kaylin's pulse raced, but he didn't move. Vera had to speak her truth. I am free. I belong to no one. Not to you, not to anyone who tries to take me. A long silence followed. The leader's glowing eyes met hers. Something in her defiance made them pause. Kaylin noticed the subtle trembling of her hands. Fear still lingered, but it was now wrapped in courage. The intruders exchanged glances. Then slowly, they backed away. The hum of their equipment faded, the snow absorbing the sound of their departure. Vera exhaled, a mixture of relief and adrenaline. Kaylin stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. You faced him, and you didn't flinch. Vera's lips curved into a small, tired smile. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm standing. Kaylin looked out at the dark forest. The storm had passed, but he knew this was only the first test. There would be more. They would come again. But tonight, in the warmth of the cabin, Vera had reclaimed a piece of herself that no one could ever take away. The fire crackled. The snow fell softly outside. And for the first time in a long while, both felt truly like they were home. Morning broke pale and gray, snow glinting faintly in the weak sunlight. The cabin seemed peaceful, but Kaylin knew better. The intruders hadn't forgotten. They were calculating, patient. Vera moved quietly around the cabin, her hands busy with small chores. Her movements were careful now, precise. She had learned to trust Kaylin, but the memory of being hunted lingered in every glance, every twitch of muscle. Kaylin, meanwhile, checked the perimeter again. The forest seemed empty, but his instincts screamed otherwise. He had set up motion sensors, hidden alarms, and even rigged some traps, none lethal, but enough to slow anyone who tried to break in. He had learned the hard way that underestimating their enemies was fatal. A faint hum reached his ears, soft at first, almost drowned by the wind. He froze. Vera noticed immediately and stiffened beside him. They're close, he whispered. Vera's eyes widened. Should we hide? No, said Kaylin. We prepare. We fight if we must. The hum grew louder, a mechanical alien resonance that made the cabin walls vibrate. The snow outside rippled unnaturally, as if alive. Kaylin grabbed Vera's hand. Stay close, he said. Then the first shadow appeared at the edge of the forest, a massive armored figure, its glowing eyes scanning. One became two, then three. Kaylin's traps triggered, a loud clatter and red lights flashing. The intruders paused, hissing through metallic communication devices. Kaylin's eyes met Vera's. You're doing great, he said. She nodded, adrenaline sharpening her focus. One alien tried to flank the cabin, but a hidden tripwire triggered a mechanical noise that made it stumble, buying them precious seconds. Kaylin activated a small electromagnetic pulse from the panel. The alien's equipment flickered, their glowing eyes dimming for a moment. Vera felt a surge of empowerment. She realized she wasn't just a frightened child anymore. She was part of this fight. Her small hands adjusted the mechanisms under Kaylin's guidance, moving tools, pressing buttons, creating chaos for the invaders without firing a single shot. Finally, the intruders hesitated and retreated, disappearing into the snow-laden forest. The hum faded, leaving only the sound of the wind and the crackling fire inside the cabin. Kaylin exhaled, leaning against the wall. You see? You're not helpless. You're strong. Vera looked at him, a flicker of pride in her glowing eyes. I'm learning, she said softly. Kaylin smiled. And next time, we'll be ready for anything. Together. Outside, the snowstorm had quieted, but both knew this peace was fragile. The intruders would return, stronger, more prepared. But inside the cabin, they had discovered something far more dangerous to anyone who hunted them: trust, unity, and the courage to stand.
Night had fallen heavy and silent, the snow forming a thick, muffled blanket over the forest. Inside the cabin, Kalen and Vera moved with quiet purpose. The fire flickered weakly, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. Both were alert, their senses sharpened by the knowledge that the intruders would not forget. Vera adjusted the blankets around her shoulders, watching Kalen prepare makeshift barricades. Her small fingers trembled slightly, but there was determination in her glowing eyes. She had learned to trust her instincts, and more importantly, she had learned to trust him. A sudden vibration ran through the cabin floor. Kalen froze, listening. Outside, the soft crunch of snow under heavy boots reached their ears. The intruders had returned, this time more numerous and organized. "They're coming," Kalen whispered, eyes narrowing. Vera gripped a small tool like a weapon. "We fight?" she asked quietly. Kalen placed a hand on her shoulder. "We protect, not just ourselves, but this place, and everything you've rebuilt here. Stay with me." The cabin door shook violently as the first of the intruders pounded against it. Metallic voices echoed, "Hand over the asset, now!" Kalen held his ground, placing himself between Vera and the door. "She is not an asset. She is a person. You will not take her." The pounding continued, growing more desperate. Kalen activated a hidden mechanism. Wood panels slid into place, reinforcing the door, while smoke vents filled the cabin with blinding clouds. The aliens hissed, their alien senses disrupted, that they were relentless. Vera moved with Kalen's guidance, assisting with every mechanism. Her confidence grew. Fear transformed into courage. She pressed buttons, triggered alarms, and even maneuvered a small electromagnet to disable one of the alien devices. Then a loud crash. An alien had broken a window. Snow and shards of ice sprayed inside. Kalen reacted instantly, pulling Vera behind a makeshift barricade. "Stay low," he shouted. Vera's heart pounded, but she stayed steady, following his every command. For the first time, she realized she wasn't helpless. She had power, ingenuity, and someone who believed in her. The aliens attempted to storm the cabin, but Kalen's traps worked perfectly. Slippery oil on the floor, blinding lights, and loud mechanical noises disoriented them. Vera even used a small wrench to jam one of the alien devices, causing sparks and chaos. The aliens hesitated, confused by the unexpected resistance. Kalen took a deep breath, glancing at Vera. "Now," he whispered. Together, they triggered the final defensive mechanism, a flare that illuminated the forest, signaling that anyone approaching would face consequences. The aliens paused, exchanging silent signals, and then slowly retreated into the night, their glowing eyes fading into the distance. Vera exhaled, leaning against Kalen. "We did it?" she whispered. Kalen smiled, exhaustion and relief mixing on his face. "For now. But remember, the world outside doesn't stop hunting you, and neither will they. You've grown stronger, Vera. Never forget that." She looked at him, a quiet determination burning in her gaze. "I'm not afraid anymore. Not with you." Kalen nodded, gently placing a hand on her head. "Good. We survived together. Always together." Outside, the wind howled again, snow swirling like ghostly specters, but inside the cabin, two unlikely allies had discovered something far more formidable than the aliens hunting them: courage, unity, and the strength to face any shadow, no matter how dark.
The snowstorm outside had grown fiercer, whipping against the cabin like a living force. Kalen and Vera moved with calm urgency, knowing the intruders would return, and this time they wouldn't hold back. The cabin, once a quiet refuge, now thrummed with tension. Tools, makeshift barricades, and traps lined the walls. Vera checked the hidden vents, the electromagnets, and the alarm systems one last time. Her hands were steady, her mind focused. She had learned quickly, survival meant thinking ahead, trusting instincts, and, most importantly, trusting Kalen. A deep vibration shook the floor. Vera's glowing eyes widened as three massive silhouettes emerged through the snow. The intruders had returned, taller, armored, more menacing than before. Their voices were metallic, sharp, and commanding. "Hand over the asset. This is your final warning." Kalen stepped forward, placing himself in front of Vera. "She's not an asset. She's not yours. She's free, and I will not let you take her." The intruders advanced, their heavy boots crunching the snow, weapons raised. The first one lunged, but Vera reacted instinctively, flipping a lever that released a coil of wires across the floor. Sparks flew, disorienting the alien. Kalen followed with a swift maneuver, pulling the intruder into a trap that immobilized him temporarily. Vera's heart raced, but she felt something new. Power. Agency. For the first time, she realized she wasn't a victim, she was a fighter. One of the intruders aimed a weapon at her. Without hesitation, Vera grabbed a tool from the workbench and hurled it with precision. The device clattered against the alien's armor, forcing it to stagger. "Run if you must, but not today," she whispered to herself. Kalen activated the cabin's last defense, a blinding flare that erupted in the center of the room, momentarily stunning the remaining intruders. Vera pressed a button that triggered a smoke vent, filling the cabin with thick clouds that masked their movements. Together, they moved with synchronization, silent yet lethal. The leader of the intruders stepped forward, towering over both Kalen and Vera. "You cannot hide her. She belongs to us," it growled. Vera took a deep breath, stepping forward despite her small frame. "She belongs to herself, and I will never let you take her or anyone else again." The alien leader hesitated, unprepared for such courage from one so small. Kalen seized the moment, maneuvering behind the leader, using the cabin's defenses to pin it. Vera joined him, working together with instincts honed over days of fear and survival. Finally, the intruders, overwhelmed and confused by the unexpected resistance, retreated into the storm, their glowing eyes disappearing into the swirling snow. Silence returned, heavy but victorious. Vera sank to the floor, exhaustion overtaking her, but a soft smile touched her lips. Kalen knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You were incredible," he whispered. She looked up, eyes shining. "No, we were incredible. Together." The fire crackled once more, filling the cabin with warmth. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside, two survivors sat in quiet triumph. They had faced shadows, fear, and chains of the past and emerged free, stronger, and bonded in a way neither could have imagined. Kalen poured 2 cups of tea, handing one to Vera. She accepted it with a grateful smile, her fingers brushing his. "We can breathe now," she said softly. Kalen nodded. "Yes, for the first time, we truly can." And in that small cabin, amidst snow and silence, a fragile but unbreakable hope was born, one that neither storm nor shadow could ever erase.